FOJCRadio. David and Donna Carrico, the dynamic duo of followers of Jesus Christ. Nah, we're just regular people. We're just loving and serving the Lord, and we challenge you to love and serve the Lord and learn all that you can about Him. We're preaching the gospel of the kingdom and teaching the doctrine of Christ to the whole world. And thanks again for listening to our programs, and blessings to all of you.
It's time to shake and wake up the world with the best biblical talk shows from all over the world gathered in one place. ShakeandWakeRadio.com, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will set you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com. Shalom and welcome to Spiritual Warfare Friday. I'm your host, Dan Bidondi and Brian Reece. So we got a great show for you tonight. Tonight's broadcast is Mysterious Mountains and the Mountain of God. So we're going to get into a discussion over these certain mountains, significant mountains through history, not just through the Bible, but other religions, ancient cultures and all that. What's the spiritual significance with these mountains? You know, why are mountains chose to have these supernatural things and biblical things and everything else? And we're going to ultimately lead to what we believe might be the mountain of God, the mountain of God. And it's crazy, man, because if you look at all the ancient explorers, and you know, this just drives me nuts, and Brian as well. So today's world, right, we got the globe and all that, and you know, here's the thing. I know a lot of people don't believe in this stuff, but you know what? Here's the thing. Ancient cultures or ancient explorers, all mapped the world at the time, and they all had the same exact mapping. And then all of a sudden, everything's changed. At least half of Antarctica is gone. Antarctica, is gone. You got the North Pole and all that just being wiped out on Google Earth and everything else. It is just nuts. And we're supposed to stop. And you think, all right, let's not believe thousands of years of human history, explorers and everything else to what today's society believes. You know what I mean? And lies to us about. And we do that all the time. We expose these people for the liars that they are. So why are they hiding these things? That's the big question we're going to ask tonight. And thank you guys for joining us for Mysterious Mountains and the Mountains of God. And by the way, we're live, guys. It's Friday. It's February 2nd, 2024. So after the show, guys, because here's the thing. When we were taking phone calls, we were going to actually can the phone calls because we asked people not to talk about the jabs and election stuff and, things that will flag us on YouTube. And every time we get phone calls, somebody brings it up, and it's just like, you know what? I was ready to can the whole phone call thing because it was just getting disgusting. I had to pull shows down. We had great shows, and all of a sudden, one person calls and starts talking about these things, and we had to pull the show down because if we didn't, we get a strike on YouTube and everything else. So what we decided to do is, from now on, we're going to do our question and answer bonus shows on Rumble channel. We're going to put the link in the chat room later, and it's also in the comment section. The description of the video, because it just saves us, okay? Because we don't want to go down that road. We have to respect YouTube's policies. We may not agree with them, but however, we need to respect them in order to use their platform. We're thankful for them allowing us to use that platform. So, we do have to respect their rules. So for now on, just to say, we don't have to worry about this no more, because every show, to be honest with you, every show when we take phone calls, me and Brian are biting our nails because waiting for that one person to say that one bad thing that's going to get us a strike on YouTube. So again, we were ready to just can the phone calls altogether. And so I'm like, I got a Rumble channel. Let's utilize that. So from now on, the questions, answers, and phone calls will be on Rumble. And if you're not subscribed to my Rumble channel, guys, please go do so. The link's in the description. And we will provide the link before the show ends anyway. So question and answer bonus show will be on our Rumble channel. So we'll take phone calls then and comments and everything else. And also information too that we can't describe on, and that's what the bonus show is going to be about from now on, because we're going to, do our presentation here and everything, but the stuff we can't say on YouTube, we're going to bring it over to Rumble. And it's no holds barred. So if you want to call in and talk about those things, go for it. You know what I mean? But on the Rumble channel. So, and I want to thank ShakeAwakeRadio.com for carrying the show, and BeforeIt'sNews.com as well. And please support EstherJades.com. Discover the power of holistic wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. Transform your life from natural solutions. So, yeah, they got awesome stuff here. And actually, got some of the products here I want to promote real quick. This is like my favorite because, as you all know, I'm a professional wrestler. I'm a powerlifter and everything else. And a lot of pain comes with it. So if you got any kind of pains, muscle aches, anything else, guys, this here, it's one of the top selling items, Pain Buster Cream. And you can order this stuff, and guys, this lasts a while lasts me about almost a month sometime. But awesome stuff, really is. And if you need stuff, it smells great. Doesn't smell like that strong Bengay or anything like that. This is like real good stuff. Smells nice and everything, goes on smooth. And I'm telling you, man, your pain will go away, muscle aches and everything else. And they also got this chest rub here, soothing chest rub. It's like the Vicks eucalyptus, but it's better. It's all natural and everything else. It goes on your chest and all that. I just want to promote a couple of products before I get going. And if you need a good lung cleanser, mullein leaf tincture there she's got. So just want to show a couple of the products here. And this is some good stuff. I can't get enough of this. This here is cloves of garlic that's fermented in honey. And it doesn't taste tart like, if you bite into a clove of garlic. It is great. It's nice and soft and everything. And, good stuff. And it keeps your immune system up and all that. And this is right now, because of the season right now, everybody's getting sick. This is our hot selling item, which the label's a little faded here. But her organic fire cider. So that's been helping me out a lot because I had the flu and pneumonia. I'm still actually getting over it right now, recovering for it. And also the elderberry syrup. This stuff is amazing. Tastes great, too. And it just is like just a few of her products. They got tons of products, and they just launched their website, which they're still working on. But they do got a Facebook page. If you go to the Facebook page, they got the list of all the products. But right now, they're still adding the products to the website. So if you go to estherjades.com, and you will, which is up here as well, estherjades.com. And, yeah, it's amazing stuff. And it's all organic, and the prices are great. They really are. And it's Kathleen and her daughter, and this is a family-run business. They're just launching out, and me, Brian, and David Carrico, we're just trying to promote them and get them some business because we believe in supporting local businesses, especially people who are in the faith and just trying to make a living and everything else. So thank you guys for, your products and everything else and all that good stuff. So please support them, guys. So now, so let's get into this show here. This is going to be a great show. And again, we're going to do the presentation here in about 11 o'clock, which is in 2 hours from now. We're going to go over to Rumble. That's where we're going to answer questions, phone calls, and all that good stuff. And it's a free-for-all there, so you could say whatever you want, you know what I mean? So I just have to be respectful. But, just because we got to honor YouTube's policy. So what's going on, Brian?
Not much, Dan. Glad to be here tonight on Spiritual Warfare Friday, and thank you for allowing me to be your co-host like always, and it's always a pleasure to be in here, my friend. So looking forward to the program, and let's see how many high mountains we can climb, my friend. Let's see how many high mountains we can climb tonight. So yeah, ready to go.
So one mountain I wanted to start off with, and I know you got a lot to say about this mountain too. It's in the Book of Enoch. And it's Mount Hermon. So, what we want to do is we're not trying to go over the place and try to confuse you. What we're doing is we're pointing out, and there's many, we could be here all night. So, we're going to point out some of these significant mountains where supernatural occurrences took place. So, biblically, into other religions and all that stuff like that, and ancient Indians and all that stuff like that, they had certain things that took place on mountains, and it's parallel because the supernatural stuff that occurred, opening of portals, angels ascending upon them, descending upon them. It's crazy, man, and it's biblical as well. So, first we're going to start off with Enoch 6. So, it talks about when the fallen angels came to the earth here, and they came in we're going to start off Enoch chapter 6. And it came to pass when the children men had multiplied in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them. And they talk about the fallen angels. And said to each other, come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and let us beget children. And Samjizah was their leader, the head of the fallen angels, and said to them, I fear not indeed agree to do this deed. I alone shall not have to pay the penalty of sin. And they all answered him and said, let's all swear an oath and bind ourselves upon mutual implications not to abandon this plan. So they knew they were about to create commit this huge sin. And Samjizah didn't want to pay the penalty by himself. So all the fallen angels said, all right, we'll swear a oath together that we all should do this together, have children with the daughters of men. And they knew damn well, they knew darn well what they were doing and what kind of sin. And this, we believe, we did a show on this, how Samjizah, we believe that it was this is Satan's and Samjizah's plan to thwart the coming of Christ at the time. Anyway, then they all swore an oath upon mutual implications, right? And there were all about 200 angels who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn an oath upon themselves. And also this mountain here is where later on, where Enoch met up with these fallen angels later, because the fallen angels, like after they'd done this deed, they were afraid. They were definitely afraid because they knew the wrath of God. God was like really ticked off, and they knew what God was going to do to them. So they had Enoch there write a petition to the Lord on Mount Hermon there. And there's a lot of significance with Mount Hermon here as well. And this one here, I've got to wait for later because that's... So anyway, so Mount Hermon, and also it's not coincidence that, if you want to show that too, Brian, on Mount Hermon, how there's a United Nations base up there. So what's going on in Mount Hermon, you know what I mean? And
you got it, Dan.
So we're going to go over Google Earth today, guys, and all that good stuff, So there's Mount Hermon, and where's that located, actually?
In Asia.
In Asia?
Yep, in Asia. Yes, sir. And the whole thing is, folks, what Brother Dan is talking about here tonight. We have the UN, literally the UN location, beacon, however you want to call it, main hub, center on this mountain. And the whole thing, where it's at, where it's placed, it can't just be a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. But Mount Hermon has a lot, like Brother Dan is talking about in the Book of Enoch, a lot of significance with ancient past, a lot of compelling narratives as far as what's happened and what has still continued to go on. And I think when you look at Mount Hermon as of today in the UN, the whole UN so-called council, whoever these people are, or if they are even people, there might be angelic beings masquerading as people, and they're controlling this hilltop, let's say that, and they have agendas with it. So yeah, Dan, it's pretty bizarre. Pretty bizarre
some
stuff.
pictures here of the UN base up there on Mount Hermon.
Mm-hmm. Little crazy stuff here. If you can zoom in, if you can see it on the screen.
Yep, there it is.
It actually says UN on the top of the roof.
Oh yeah.
Of the facility. I try to zoom in as much as possible on Google Earth would permit me, but there is the. Sorry, Dan. I know you're doing the screenshots there and stuff, but the Google Earth imagery, I didn't know if it could allow me to do it, but you can see where they painted on top of the roof UN. So there you go, everybody. It's pretty wild stuff. What do you think, Dan? I mean, what do you think's going on here? And the oath that the 200 Watchers took or taken that they participated in to let's just go down there that road where they took an oath to teach man certain things, plus the giants came out of that. And here we are in today's world where they don't believe the giants existed, but this is a prime example of this UN mountaintop where they all took an oath and started mingling themselves and all this good stuff and showing mankind all kinds of different technological advancements. And this is one of the reasons why we're in the mess we are. One, but I think on that day, that event, that oath that they took that day, has changed a lot of human history. That's my take, Dan.
This is how big Mount Hermon is, so it's a massive mountain.
I don't even know if it'll let me, for everybody watching tonight, I don't even know if it lets me pinpoint, a street level view. There's nothing there that I can go down and zoom in. Usually can get a really precise street view, but let's just say I don't think it's a tourist attraction. I don't think not everybody can attend to go to UN without probably proper clearance. But yeah, it is a very interesting mountain peak, to say the least. That's correct.
Well, that's crazy, man. And so yeah, and the thing is Mount Hermon too. It's like, why would they build a base up there? And there was a specific reason why the fallen angels ascended and descended upon Mount Hermon. Here goes my camera. Yeah. So is there a portal there? You know what I mean? That's a question we want to ask. And also, we've got to do one big thing, guys. I apologize. We're advertising stuff on the show and all that. We've got to do prayer to start the show off. But better late than never. So sorry about that, guys. So usually when we start the show, we do a prayer to cover the show and everybody here. So if you want to join us in the prayer real quick. So Jesus, Yeshua Messiah, we come before you and ask you to forgive us for our sins. And we're sorry for not praying before the show. And please forgive us individually of our sins. And we love you so much and thank you so much. And Father, we ask you to protect the show and protect everybody here from all the forces of evil and help us disseminate this information today and bring some connections and show your glorious creation, Lord, that the world is hiding from us. In your mighty name we pray, amen.
Amen.
And that's very important to do, guys. For new listeners out there, we usually start the show off and end it with the prayer. It's very important to do that. So, and if you're new to the program, guys, hit like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to our Rumble channel as well. And also Brighteon's channel. It's Visual Disturbance. The link is in the description. And we got other channels, too, we want to promote, like Night TV and all that. So please do that when you get a chance here. So, yeah, so Mount Hermon, that's just one of many of these mountains. So there's the thing is, like, there's a specific reason why mountains are chosen for, and that's what we're trying to figure out. Why are mountains, why is it got to be a high place that these supernatural occurrences take place? Are there portals up there? And I mean, it's uncanny, it really is. And the information about, why all these people went to high mountains to do certain things. And so, and we really believe that, we believe in the biblical cosmology view. So we believe in the world like this, not a globe, you know what I mean? And we believe that heaven, the throne of heaven, is straight above us, as the Bible says, there's a firmament that's covering the earth that separates the waters from the waters. And also above that, the waters is the throne of God, in the kingdom of heaven, exactly what the Bible says. And if you actually do research, every ancient culture, even Hinduism, Buddhism, we don't promote those things, no. But even in those religions, they do promote the same cosmology. I just want to point that out. So all these, like I said earlier, thousands of years of human history, explorers all charting the world, completely different from what you see on the globe today. And, people say, well, today we got satellites and NASA and all that. So if you actually believe those things, guys, I'm not saying we don't have satellites and nothing. I'm just saying if you actually believe those people, they're liars, plain and simple. And, it's crazy. And we're going to show you these old maps and all that stuff. We're going to show you the correlation with this stuff. We're going to get to the program here. So Mount Hermon, is one of many of these mountains we're going to get into today. And so we're going to jump over to Mount Graham. So if you want to lay out some, I know you're good with Mount Graham. Yeah, you got information on that?
Yeah, Dan, real quick, when I add to the UN up on the mountaintop up there at Mount Hermon, there's also it's kind of fun fact here. There's a Hermon Hotel. Huh. It's literally, not too far from the UN main hub there, so to speak. I just want to throw it out there. And also they have a Mount Hermon ski resort and all kinds of goodies up on top of there. But it's in it's a little bit further out from the UN, United Nations main hub there. I just want to point that out. I thought it was kind of interesting that they, when you do a Wikipedia search, they're like all about it. It's kind of strange. So the Mount Graham is very interesting. The place is, in my opinion, I use the analogy, a powder keg of information. I believe this particular location, I'm going to go to Google Earth on it too, Bro Dan, if you want me to.
Yeah.
This particular location, we have, let me see if I can get the right one. This is it. Okay. When you go to this location on Google Earth, sometimes it's hard to find I'm going to look at that. I'll talk about that here in a second, but there's a telescope. Astronomers out there, and there's the Vatican, the good old Pope. He comes over periodically throughout every year, supposedly, in his little private helicopter that goes to Mount Graham and to monitor something that is coming. Right? They always talk about they're looking at the stars and whatever. There's like all this speculation around it. It gets go down the rabbit hole, so to speak. And it's one of those things that drives me crazy. They've been talking about it for since 2015, I think. It's been really heavy in the news. Not mainstream, but right with CERN and Mount Graham, since those time frames, there's been a lot of heavy talk to do with stargates, etc. And Mount Graham is a very, very intriguing place, in my opinion. I think it actually has the data there to back up that there is some type of interdimensional stargate to that level, because the Lucifer, it's the telescope that is funded and everything by the Vatican is not, the telescope has a lens called Lucifer. Okay. So isn't it kind of interesting when it comes into, let's just say there's a lot of information dropping right now about military applications where the lenses back in, I think it was like either, I'm trying to remember if it was the Vietnam War. I can't remember. But anyways, they had some kind of applications where they had these special lenses. I think it's called dicecine, I think. And it looks similar to the same color that's on the Lucifer lens on that astronomy site where the astronomers are trying to look for something, so to speak, and monitoring something on this mountaintop. So Mount Graham Indians had this. This was a God-given site. But the Indians had that site, knew it, and then hey, all of a sudden it was, let's just say, taken. But I'm going to watch what I say on here. But there was a lot of things that, let's just make them all leave. Let's just have a great exodus and make them all leave. But there's all kinds of evidence with petroglyphs, all down through there in the cave systems that says something totally different. And this one I just showed not too long ago, some petroglyphs on one of the programs I did, showing that there was tall men that had literally like Viking hats on, that would take people through a spiral. And Mount Graham is literally inundated with all these stories about the Indians going to war. And there was a city there, I don't forget the name of it, but it would be advanced. They had advancements, the women and children. So your Genesis 6, same narrative, same dance. So they take the children, take the women, and they would do that for technology. So there's a pro and con. But then, in my opinion, they started getting tired of that, and they went to war with, something, let's just say tall beings that come through, and they're all down through there with petroglyphs. These tall Viking-like men grabbing people. The depictions, it's pretty clear. There's 6 toes. There's 5 toes from left to right. It's showing the differences. There's man on horses with arrows. They're going to war with these entities. So it's kind of interesting that the Vatican has took over the shop over there, the mountaintop over at Mount Graham, and making everybody leave. So in my opinion, the area, I don't forget the name of the ancient Indian site, but they just bellied up one day, like completely vanished. And it almost reminds me of when we talked about Mayans and the Aztec. The Mayans, they bellied up one day, right? Like just miraculously just vanished. So it fits the same profile. And one would wonder what's really going on. So then you have the Pope monitoring it, and especially the new one, the newer Pope, Pope Francis, is all about that high mountain peak, and it's really heavy and inundated with Vatican money funding this in Arizona, in America. And the Mount Graham has your giants, the giants in the earth in those days. You have your high point, and the telescope is one of the most advanced telescopes supposedly, and on this good old flat Earth that we have. So, I could speculate all day and say, hey, what are you looking for? Why does the man in the white robe have to come over 20, 2 or 3, 4, 5 times during, my opinion is during the equinoxes. That's my opinion, Dan. I think they're monitoring it and looking at how the sun and everything, the sun and the moon work around. There's these gates, and that would explain why there's petroglyphs. And the Indians know this. The chieftains, they all know that this stuff is going on. Way before they set up shop and built a telescope, they knew it was an ancient stargate. Absolutely, Dan. I'll give the floor back to you. But there's my short summary overview of Mount Graham. If you want me to show some Google Earth imagery, I can. But if you want to elaborate to that.
If you want to get that, and I'll read the articles about it.
Sure.
So the name of the mountain, I hope I pronounce this right, it's called Dizilnishasian, means the big mountain sitting. So basically, this is an article by Monkey, whatever, but it talks about Mount Graham, a dimensional portal on sacred Indian ground where they are monitoring something approaching the Earth. Now, mind you, like we talked about, this is where they placed the Lucifer telescope. And let me bring that up. And Lucifer telescope, and it's acronyms. I mean, it's kind of weird because they say, oh, it doesn't mean Lucifer like Lucifer. But, how coincidentally that they would name the telescope by the Vatican. The Vatican paid the University of Arizona to build this telescope, by the way. So this is what this supposedly stands for. The acronyms: Large Binocular Telescope, Near Infrared, Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research. Lucifer. Right? What a coincidence that is, isn't it? Yeah, because it has no significance with Lucifer. Yeah, right. So, Mount Graham, again, it's on Mount Graham, and they were hell-bent on taking this from the Indians. And there was actually almost a war over this stuff, yeah. So, Native Americans have often united on this beautiful location in Arizona to defend the sacred mountain of the Apaches. For more than 30 years, controversial has raged over Mount Graham at the highest spiritual place for the Apaches. Now, they're saying the Apaches, this was a sacred mountain to them for a reason. A lot of supernatural things took place on Mount Graham here. And the mountain was desecrated by the construction of a large astronomical observatory in which the Vatican and Artesio Observatory participant. Protests around the world continue after many years, and currently the local police prohibit the natives themselves from visiting the site and therefore staying away to avoid arrest. So they took this from the Native American land, robbed it from them, now that they can't even go near it without getting arrested. And it says the Great Sitting Mountain, that's what they called it. And a difficult struggle to Native Americans for survival of their culture and traditions, and yet another battle is taking place and still taking place, which began quietly and landed in the headlines, and the battle of the Apaches to save Mount Graham, the last sacred symbol left to their proud people. So it's kind of weird, man. And they, since the beginning, the Apaches, this was sacred to them. This was like their high holy place, even though we don't agree with that part, spiritual part, but this is their land. This is their mountain and all that. So why would the federal government move in to take that mountain over? There's plenty of other mountains in the area that they could have taken, some higher than that. Why would they take this one? And why would the Vatican specifically choose this mountain to put their telescope in? So you got to ask these questions. Why would they do this when there's other mountains around, higher ones that they could put the telescope on? Mm. And why would the government go through the length of that? And like literally, when they first started doing this, if you read the stories on this stuff, when they first moved into the area to take this mountain over, there was fights. The Indians were ready to go to war with the government over this stuff because this was theirs for thousands of years, and all of a sudden the government wants it now. Why? That's a big question. Why? And again, tons of reports. I mean, like they did rituals up there, all kinds of supernatural things, and a lot of people believe are opening of portals.
Absolutely, Dan. And here's my take. It's all speculation, so I'll just throw it out there. I've looked at a lot of mountain peaks, like researched a bunch of them, all in my local area and all over the Americas, right, over America. And here's my take. If you want to remove a bloodline, okay, let's just say let's just have some fun here. The Indian tribes that was native to there, let's remove them because they know the understanding of, they understand the logistics of everything. They know the ins and outs, and they know that it's a Stargate. They know that it's interdimensional. They know that they communicate with things that come through portals. So for them to get them out, they had to basically, let's just have fun here. There's programs I've done with mud floods, and there's train tracks, there's insane asylums, and there's displaced people. There's people being displaced all over the place and relocated. This is exactly what happened in this scenario. They've been displaced and moved, and whoever survived these bloodbaths that you're referring to, they lost their way, right? They lost their family tree as far as their family history. They didn't continue the practices. That's my opinion. I think there's something to do with the blood, because I've seen portals and all these different things where they would I have to watch what I say on here, but there would be blood, a cup of blood, like a little cylinder. And they sure enough claimed that when they took the blood of the Indians, their tribes, something would show up, right? So it's interesting to me on this mountain.
You want to pop up the Google Earth too if you want.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
That term I used earlier, Dyson, I think it's called Dysonin, I think. Dysinian, that's how you pronounce it. Well, it's a lens. Well, these military applications use this lens. We're not talking about night vision. But when they had it on, Dan, they was looking at the sky. There's reports. This has been bleeding off into the Twitter world where literally there's these firsthand accounts and testimonies. These men started panicking and started shooting into the woods, and there was nobody around, Dan. They was shooting up in the sky. So it literally changed their perception of what they were seeing. They was actually seeing things that the human eye couldn't see. So these lenses changed their perspective.
Oh, so is that what they used in the first generation night vision in Vietnam?
That's exactly what I'm referring to. And they started panic mode, and they seen stuff flying, these abnormal demons, creatures floating in the sky, just taking, machine guns and just going postal. There was nobody there, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same principle, I think, with this Lucifer telescope. I can't prove it. It's all speculation, but I think that they're using the same technology to be able to see stuff. When they're like, well, we're seeing things. It's because every equinox, every summer solstice, every winter solstice, there's a change with the cosmological standpoint. Listen, the stars are moving. The stars, the moon, and the sun are moving, folks, but the Earth isn't, and they know this. So they're looking at it, and I think that's when the signatures of these stargates are more apparent, right? There's more strength in them. They understand the logistics, so that's why they're still funding it to this day. So I'll stop talking and show you all some examples on Google Earth here, like show you where we're at and what me and Dan's talking about here. Let me get into it real quick. There we go. Right here. All right. So Mount Graham, let me zoom out and make sure that everybody can see it from a distance here. Good old Arizona. Brother Adam lives that far away. And big shout out to Adam. I hope he's doing well. But yeah, Dan, you can see this. There's this little, I don't know if that's the observatory or not. I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to type it in. I'm not 100% sure where the precisely where it is on Google Earth imagery, but this is Mount Graham. I'm trying to find the Lucifer telescope. But
right there for a minute, if you take a look, right, like I said earlier, all those mountains around there, why choose that one? Why upset the Native Americans and choose that one specifically, unless there's something significant going on up there?
Exactly. Because it has significance. And if you look out toward the west, I mean, this is far west anyways, but if you look, all missing people, there's a huge missing people report. You can stack this up for 100 years back, all over the place. And guess what? I think there's like 7,000, maybe it's 7,000. Maybe I'm wrong on the statistics, but there's quite a few Native Americans missing for like it's been going on forever. And one wonders what's really going on here, Dan. I mean, there's something nefarious going on, and I think the Native Americans of old, the ones that they ran out,
look at
they
this,
made them
dude.
move.
If you want to pause that for 1 second,
Sure.
On Google Earth, right? I'm sorry, Google. Strange disappearance of Mary Sloan from Mount Graham. Missing hiker found deceased on Mount Graham. Arizona missing persons cases. There's tons of news about Mount Graham. Tons of people.
What year was that, Dan? What year was that?
Which one? The 2017.
Of course, it's 2017.
She went missing in September of 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Well, of course, even 2015 is very significant.
Yeah.
I started noticing a lot of different things in our world in 2015. Things started really ramping up as far as the insanity that we're all subjected to now. But I think there's interconnection with something. I've even speculated that there's something under the ground, and that the Hopis, all these different Native Americans knew back in the day. And then, it's kind of sad if you really think about it, Dan. I know that we don't agree with some of the Native American cultures and what they did, but as far as, agriculture and some of the things that they could do on the land, hunting and everything, they was very resourceful, right? Survivalist on the highest order. They're like Rambo on steroids, right? They could survive out in the woods forever. So if you look at it, I still think that I hate when people say that they're primitive or indigenous and just, not at them. I think they was very educated and very understanding. I think they knew the land in and out, and they knew darn well their traditions that was passed down. And when you see these ancient gates, because once again, I'll say this, Aztec, you have the Mayans, all these different things, these cultures started migrating up into America. We're talking about Mexico, started migrating up. And I know that some of these tribes mingled with these ancient civilizations. And that's why you have these, it's you can actually prove it. You can prove this. And I know that they all knew that there was ancient gates and stargates that all interconnected with an antediluvian world. And then the people just discredit it today because, well, we're in power, we're academia world, we have all the knowledge. Well, no, me and Dan just said it. There's a adversary. They used to have another adversary, but now they have the gentlemen that stole their land and made them relocate. And how sick, even though I don't approve of everything they do as far as the religious aspect and what they do with that spiritually, it's no right for these principalities, the people over there in the east, their great star fort, their serpent buildings, to come over there and take and deprive these people from their ancient land. I think that's very disrespectful, even though, like I said, there's certain things I don't agree with and I don't want to put down on the tribes, but I'm just saying in general, something went down, Dan, and it's went down for many years. And I think what you're bringing up there with the missing people report, it's all throughout the area, Midwest, out toward Nevada, everything. People think that it's to do with tunnel systems or whatnot. I really do think when you go to these national parks, they have the mesas, right? The Skinwalker Ranch narrative, all these places have significance of missing people. But see, we become displaced. We become we're fragmented, right? So we can't remember what we did last week. So if it's not reported, but then they're like, well, we had these statistics. Well, hence we have these Indian grounds. And I bet you, Dan, all through Mount Graham, I bet there's Indian mounds all up and down this place on the base of this mountain. I bet there's Indian mounds every which way. I'll give the floor back to you.
Yeah, right. I'm looking at your map here. That's crazy. And again, not to repeat myself, but if you've seen all the mountains around there, why would you choose that one? Tick off the Native Americans and all that, and when there's other mountains around there, you got to choose, and there probably would have been no problem. But that specific one, and that's, and people call you conspiracy theorists from actually question those things. No, it's dumb. Why cause all the controversy when you could just move to the mountain next door or something? You know what I mean? But you got to choose that one purposely because there's a reason for that. And the Vatican's even come out to talk about this stuff, about Mount Hermon. There's a significance for that mountain because they believe something's coming. You know what I mean? And it's all biblical. It really is. And we're going to get to the biblical stuff about this stuff. And I'm
sorry, Dan. No, I found I'm sorry. I want to make sure I point this out. I did find the telescope for the cool. Vatican. Let me pull that up real quick. Continue on, though. I'll share it. Sorry, Dan.
No, it's all right. Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. And how dare you ask questions?
Yeah, I was on the right side. I want to make sure that I document this for the video. The one building that I referenced earlier was called the Large Binocular Telescope Observatory, but if you go over to the left, they're proud. They're proud on the Google Earth imagery here. Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. Boom. They're proud, Dan. They're proud. So there you go. There's these are all the facilities right here. This is the whole scenario right here. So you can see on the screen, Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. Forgive me, I didn't have it earlier. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan.
Looks like they fenced it off over there.
Oh, yeah, this place is like Fort Knox. It's kind of like, let's just say Bohemian Grove, probably on steroids. And they're always monitoring it. I mean, come on. And let's just go down a little bit of a rabbit hole for a few seconds here. They're monitoring stuff. They know exactly what they're doing. And like I said earlier, I think there's a connection with that technology, with that Dicelian lenses. I think that they was using it to do no telling what, as far as what man could do on the floor, on the ground level. So what could they do if they magnify it with their so-called telescopes, Dan? I mean, this is pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, a lot of people are like, well, they're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Well, big shout out to, I'm trying to remember the name. I can't give a shout out if I don't remember the name. But anyways, my brain just shut off there for a minute. But regardless, this site is very sacred, and you could probably go over to any chieftain or anybody that is of the tribe, and they would be like, say the exact same thing. But we pretty much summed up that this is very disrespectful toward their culture and their human, as far as the human aspect and their history, their family tree, just to be able to basically confiscate this land and say that, oh yeah, let's do a Hail Mary, literally, and take it and confiscate it for those poor folks. So I just want to point that out, Dan, and get you off the game. There's the advanced Vatican telescope, folks. Got the Lucifer lens in there and whatever kind of diabolical, sinister thing they're pulling off. These mountain peaks mean something, Dan. So continue on, my friend. Forgive me.
No, it's all right. I'm glad you brought that up because it's pretty cool. Yeah, man, and I was trying to look for images from the Lucifer telescope.
Oh, I can pull that up.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
I'm doing everything backwards here. I could. I think there is actually some street level view. I think.
No, I mean
there was.
like images of the sky from the telescope.
Oh, okay. But let me see if I can get a street view. I
Sure.
think I can. Of course there is. Check this out, Dan. You could actually um, zoom in around their sidewalk. It should, unless it's blurred out. There it is. There it is, Dan. It's a little bit. There's a path. There's these rocks. There's one. There's one building here, but I'm pretty sure, based off what I've seen, this is it right here, or they're both interacting with each other. Um, there's the there's one image, and it's kind of interesting that they just have this little dirt trail. It's supposed to be sacred, so to speak, and no man can go there. So, except these authorized personnel, so to speak, and it's kind of interesting.
Wonder what's under the rock.
Oh, you're talking about the under rock here, right?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting that wonder what if, right? What if there's something there and they're just, you know, something's covered up and they've used these two, let's just say two facilities that are communicating with each other. Wonder if there's some kind of power source. I mean, come on, there's all kinds of different things. We can't, I mean, I know we're speculating, but I mean, look what they're finding in Giza. Look what they're finding in the pyramids. I mean, come on, what's going on here in ancient America, right? The Atlantis and America connection, anything to do with that. I mean, who knows what's underneath these, gold, silver, whatever. Let's just go there. Phosphorus, magnesium, all these different things that you can conjure up and make, let's just say, different types of elements and combine them to make what you would call a spaceship. And I don't believe in the so-called narrative of what NASA, gurgitates out. But what if there's something to it? What if because I know not too far, even in this area, if you go to Utah, that whole, the whole mesa with Skinwalker Ranch is a powder keg of all kinds of information and elements that are underneath the ground, right? So let me go up and see if there's one more street view because I don't want to take up too much time here, staying on the same thing here, but I want to see if there's a different perspective. I want to get a different perspective. That's the same one. Hang on. Let me get another one here. This one's a little bit more closer. Hopefully it'll give you a better, okay, it's different. There we go. That's a really good picture. That's a really good imagery out there for everybody to see now. So yeah, folks, it almost looks like, here's some fun humor for some Hollywood narrative, but it almost looks like a TIE fighter from Star Wars or something, or some type of Imperial galactic, I hate to use that terminology because I don't believe in the heliocentric view, but you know what I'm saying, that when it comes to this stuff, it's just kind of interesting how their buildings and stuff, their structures. This is literally right beside it. It's snowing. There's the other facility, but it's just kind of strange that the way they look different to me than your regular telescopes that I've seen in the past, Dan. Even there's all kinds of evidence of that too. These ancient places had astronomy. They was looking at on a level of so-called studying the stars. There's all kinds of, even Chichen Itza. I mean, there's all kinds of places that resemble similar things like that. And once we'll say here on the Spiritual Warfare Friday, there's nothing new under the sun. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty baffling, Dan. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's there's a reason why they chose that fall. And, again, if you can't see that through the lines, guys, like, I don't know what to tell you. Again, all those mountains around there, they got to choose that one. It's like, come on, it causes a big controversy. And people going missing. Like, this is only speculation for me. I believe a lot of these people are victims to some kind of a portal thing going on. Because the Indians even talked about that. People going missing, certain things happening. And I really believe there's a portal up there. For where it goes, I don't know. What it's about, I don't know. But that's what I believe. And there has to be some kind of significance going on up there for all this to happen like that.
I think it's interesting too, if you look around the large binocular telescope observatory,
Yep.
There's all this greenery, there's all these trees growing in this one particular place. Isn't that kind of interesting?
Yeah.
Even where the telescope is, if they plant them there, fine, okay, that's cool. If they planted them there, if anybody can find out the research on that, if somebody has planted those trees or whatever to make it greenery, I respect that. But it seems to me that this might be natural. because if you look, there's trees down here around the base, but I could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out there, just observing it here live on the broadcast here. But it's kind of interesting, Dan, that because this is a tactic that I've seen. They done it in Machu Picchu. They done it in all kinds of different places where they would literally have pyramids and cover it up and build trees around them so nobody would like be the wiser, right? Oh, we can't see what we're doing over here. Can't see what we're doing, so we cover it up, right? So it's kind of interesting how if they're still doing the same old tactic. But that's all maybe me just rambling on here, speculating too. But it is kind of interesting that there's nothing really here. And one other thing too, before I get off of this Mount Graham, you've heard me on Spiritual Warfare Friday and other platforms talk about Emerald City, right? Emerald tablets. Dan, check this out. Emerald Spring. I mean, literally, just like within walking distance of the Large Binocular Telescope Observatory, you have the Emerald Spring. Why in the world? And it looks a little rough. The Emerald Spring looks a little rough, and there's nothing there. I can't zoom in on Street View, but it's called Emerald Spring. Riddle that one, Dan. Wonder if there's any kind of connection to that. Why would they call it Emerald Spring?
It's probably why
kind of strange
too.
Yeah, there you go, Dan. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some kind of sick. They've hidden it plain sight, but nobody's going to question it. What do you mean, Brian? There's emerald tablets. What do you mean there's emerald city? That's Wizard of Oz. What are you talking about? But literally Emerald Spring right there. It looks a little dry. It looks a little dry. It could be underground. Hello. It doesn't look like there's much water here, but it does say Emerald Spring here. I don't know if you can see it really good on Dan's screen, but it does say Emerald Spring, just to document that. But we'll continue on, Dan.
So, DGSMMA, he brought up a mountain too. Said the legend of the giant Mustang Mountain, which witch shamans on South Mount Phoenix killed the giant. So he's talking about some legend, I guess. And I don't, I hate when they call them mythology or folklore or stuff like that. This is real history, and some things could be exaggerated and fake, absolutely, but for the most part, this is history. And I hate saying folklore or mythology, whatever the case. But yeah, he's bringing up, I'm looking for any information on that. But I did find this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Did find stuff on this mountain here, the tale of Mystic Mountain, the legend of the levitating monk on Mount Hojia. And Hojia Temple in Mount Hojia. It said 1,300 years ago, in the peaks of Mount Hojia lived an ascetic monk and hermit called Rishi. According to the temple tradition, Rishi founded the Hojia Temple in 703 AD with the winding stone staircase. Yeah, winding stone staircase, huh? Temple approach of 1,400 steps surrounding the primal wood of Crumparia cedars and cypresses. The mountain is magnificently mystical setting and mountain setting practices, and has been a popular spot for pilgrimages, especially during Edo period. So just another mountain with spiritual significance.
You want me to go there?
Yeah, if you want to check it out, because it probably
is that close to Fukushima, Dan?
Not sure. It's HORAIJI.
Yeah, let's go there. I got it on screen. Let's do some Google Earth imagery again, folks.
Yeah.
Hello. Watch this. All right, here we go. Yeah, so wow. Okay, I'm looking at it real quick. So here we are, Dan. What you're referencing there. I'm pretty sure it's like it takes me right to the top of this concrete slab, or there's a building there. This must be the temple that you're referring to in that article, and that's a rooftop, and there's greenery over it. So this monastery or whatever's going on.
Yeah, it looks like
here.
the one in the picture. Yeah, I think that's it.
that has to be it. I think I pegged it pretty good.
And over to the left of it, you see that cliff?
Right here.
Yeah.
You talking about right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of. Let's back up a little bit and let's look at it from a big aerial view. Let's zoom out a lot here. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I said I might have spoke too soon. Maybe it's not Fukushima. but give me, I got the wrong place there altogether, but that's what it said. Wow. Okay, so I'm looking at something here too, Dan. I'm just looking at I'm putting on my ley line indicator here. It's a pretty good sized distance from for it to be where it's at. You're telling me based off that article. Did you say there was a shaman, or excuse me, was there some type of like monk or something?
Yeah, supposedly
Buddhism.
smoke that be able to levitate and everything, and they started a temple there and everything. I don't know the whole story. It was just briefly came up with it, and
yeah.
But yeah, it's like again more spiritual significance on top of a certain mountain.
It's interesting too because it's just crazy because I remember a story. Speaking of, I think it was monks. I think it was Tibet. I think it was Tibetan monks. It's to do with, let's just say Hitler. And I heard this a while back. I mean, it might have been several years ago. But we're talking about shamans. Let's just face it, shamans. Anything that you're doing that you're hacking into the spiritual applications. Let's just go there. If you're going down into this astral plane narrative and doing stuff and manipulate and change your perspective. And to my eyes, it's the same. Okay. So I remember the Tibet monks, I've spoke about it quite a bit. I think there was quite a few of them that would harmonize to a certain frequency or something. Mm-hmm. And then I think Hitler was involved with like some kind of random thing where they put them in these pods and put them all over the earth, and they would change the molecular structure of wherever they placed them at, Dan, because they was like vibrating at some kind of frequency. It was bizarro stuff, man. And that's all. Who knows? I can't prove any of it, but what is that, Dan? What is that? And then you have all these people, these higher elitist people in these controlled areas, right? So, we went to Mount Graham, we're going to these different places where they have, either, which I don't know if it's government funding, private funding, but we know one of them and they got their name stamped on it, the Vatican, right? So who's controlling all these things, right? Is NASA? Is NASA controlling all these gates, Dan? Is that what it is?
I believe it. I think they have something to do with that. It's all the top agencies and all that. They definitely have something to do with this stuff. And because why would the government step in and confiscate land and make it more secure than Fort Knox? It's crazy.
Yeah. And for the record, folks, I don't believe in astral projection or any of that nonsense. I'm just throwing it out there. Don't take my words out of context. I'm just saying in general, these are what they're portraying out to be. People are actually saying this is actually happening, that, something to that level. And me and Dan both agree. That's Ephesians 6, verse 12 in the biblical narrative when we're looking at principalities of wickedness, darkness. We don't want to be harnessing any of that Gilbert technology or that Gilbert essence. I'm referring to giants and Nephilim. We don't want to be touching none of that stuff, right? And I think this is where these people are doing. They're really wanting to, just like the narrative with the Tower of Babel with Nimrod, they're wanting to ascend. They literally want to get into the gate. They want to try to make war on God. And that's what these applications are.
Yeah.
And, and I think, in my opinion, the Indians, speaking of Mount Graham, was there to protect that site, right? Mm-hmm. And then, sure enough, they got moved because there's somebody, let's just say the Knights of the Templar started getting curious and started working with, the principalities. And when we referenced at the beginning of the program, when we looked at Mount Hermon, they seen that they found knowledge that could, let's just say, remove some of these individuals because they had so-called the knowledge and the technology passed down from the, let's just say, the 200 watchers that took the oath on Mount Hermon. It's crazy, Dan. I'll give the floor back to you, my friend. Mm-hmm.
And guys, real short here, Ephesians 6:12 explains it all. And I think this has a lot to do with mountains and everything else as well, because it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. In other words, we don't, obviously we go to war with each other, whatever, but that's not what the war is about. The real war is against principalities, against powers, against the rulers. And what principalities and powers are, guys? These are angelic beings, demonic beings and everything else. And against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So this is what spiritual warfare is about, you know what I mean? And to know what you're dealing with and what you're battling and everything else, that's the war. Yeah, obviously we got wars going on all over the world right now, all kinds of chaos and everything else, but that's not what the real war is about. You know, the real war, the biggest war, is the war that you can't see. The wars that are going on right now. And we talked about that lens that Brian was talking about. Back in Vietnam, when they first developed the night vision, they used this liquid for the lens and everything. And again, like Brian said, they were shooting at things in the sky. This is known stories. If you know anybody in Vietnam that probably worked with this or heard about it, they were shooting at demons and everything else over Vietnam because they're scared the crap out of them. They're trying to see at night, and all of a sudden they see these things popping up. And that's what the lenses they're using, these telescopes, to see the principalities in high places. That's what they're looking at, the Lucifer telescope. They're watching these spiritual beings and everything else that's going on, because again, if you could see this with your own eyes, everywhere you look, you will see demons, you will see all kinds of things, spiritual wars going on. And we don't have that vision. We have this carnal vision. And I think if most people seeing what was going on, they would drop dead from fright of what's going on right in front of your face, and that you can't even see it, smell it, or touch it. And there's another one here. I went myself here. I stayed at this hotel. I was last summer or the one before. That little tower up there. You walk up on the tower onto the top. We went up to the top, and right here onto the left, this is called Indian Head. This is in North Lincoln, New Hampshire. Up here is an old ancient ritual site. The Native Americans were Wampanoag over here, the Wampanoag tribe, which I belong to. This peak here, this is where they conducted their sacred rituals and all that stuff. And the Native Americans, and how to explain their version of spirituality, just take voodoo. It's a North American version of voodoo. It's a little a little bit different from the African version, but that's exactly what the shamans and medicine doctors did. They conducted these rituals right up here on the peak and all that. So this is like very sacred to them. They call it Indian Head. And someday I want to go up there and actually hike up that mountain, stay there for a weekend and just hike that mountain. I would love to go up there and check it out. But this is very sacred to the Wampanoag tribe.
Wow.
Actually, pull it up on Google. Yeah, the awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, you just go ahead and continue talking about it, and I'll pull it up if you can pop up both screens or whatever. If you can do that, I'll just go right with you. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I don't know what direction that would be for you, but it's across the street from the hotel. So
I'm at the Indian Head Resort.
Okay, so it'll be to your left.
Oh, so if I...
Because the lake, I went in that water behind the hotel. So
okay, it's right here then.
To the left.
Is it Shadow Lake?
Yep. But it's to the left.
You sit in behind the hotel, right?
Well, yeah, we went not swim. They have a little boat ride. You can walk, paddle boats. But the hotel itself, if you look across the street where the baseball field is, it's over to the right somewhat.
Oh, okay. Let me back up.
If you could probably get a street view, you can really see it. It's huge, Indian Peak.
So let's see if I can go. I'll go on the street, and then you navigate me through it. So is this the hotel? There's the hotel right there on the screen. So where do I go, Dan?
Look to your right. Keep going. You'll see the peak sticks right out.
Talking about right here.
Yep. Actually, if you go across the street to the hotel, you probably see because the trees are blocking it.
Oh, okay. Yes. Get right here. Get a better view.
And by the way, guys, thank you for the donations, whoever donated. And if you want to donate, guys, we got right in the chat room and also in the description the link to donate. And we do got a PayPal, a Venmo, and a CashApp if you wanted to use that too. It helps support our operation.
There it is, Dan. That has to be it right there.
Yep.
The peak that you're looking for.
Yep, and I think it's might be a little to the right. I'm not sure, but unless you can't see the peak from there, but
maybe these trees right here blocking it. Yeah. In Google Earth, it restrains me, man. I can go over above you, but I can't. Street View is not letting me.
Oh, all right.
But let me back up and I'll go over top of it. How about that?
No, they had pictures. See if you could go on that tower.
You talking about the little tower that's in the Indian?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because sometimes they show pictures from the tower view.
Yeah, it doesn't let me. It's only letting the street view, but I see what I tried to. That's all it would give me. Just a flat. Google Earth has let me down again, Dan.
Huh.
It's let me down again.
Well, this is what it looks like here. You see that peak there, the slope in the peak. So yeah, and a lot of, the Wapanang Indians, they had, the thing is too, they always buried the dead. Every time somebody died, they would bury them on the highest elevations, and they put a piece of quartz crystal on the eastern side of the grave. And again, that's his ritual, voodoo rituals. They do this stuff.
Wow. So you said the quartz crystal, right?
Yep.
So it's interesting. Just want to throw this out here. Isn't it it reminds me, I would not recommend this book that I'm getting ready to reference, but I'm pretty sure it's the book of Adam and Eve.
The book
the book of Adam and Eve.
Hmm.
I think that they refer to a high mountain all the time and looking down. Maybe I'm in the wrong book, but I'm pretty sure it's the book of Adam and Eve. It's been a long time since I referenced that book, and I don't recommend anybody reading it. But just for referencing some things, they was supposedly burying their dead on a high mountain. It makes you wonder, Dan. Makes you wonder where that all comes from. The origins is what I want to make a connection at. Where's the origins of it come from? I think for the Indian standpoint, I think it's because of the star people, the Hopi prophecy. Once upon a time with the Vatican, they was speculating it was Nibiru, right? We could see Nibiru coming down from the sky. Then the great planet's going to take, the destroyer, the star destroyer is coming, right? And there's all this narrative with the Nibiru and Anunnaki connection. And then you have like the Indians, and they're referring to the star people. Just throw it out here. Wonder if they're trying to put them on a high peak to see, to honor their dead that way. Is that the star people come down because this is maybe their access points is the high mountains, like they're doing the same traditions like the 200 Watchers did back in Enoch. Maybe they're just like, hey, if we put them into a high elevation, maybe they'll be able to have mercy and bring them back from the dead. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but
your map is still on.
Yeah, well, that's just
okay,
me talking. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Right.
But yeah, folks. But yeah, I just had my hand. Let me do it again. I had my hands up like this, and I'm just kidding around. But thanks for letting me know. But I just think that there's something to that, Dan. Because why would you go through the trouble? Why would you go through the trouble of going to a high mountain peak and bury your dead? Does anybody know? Anybody in the chat? Let me know if you know. I'm still looking and studying and making sure that I've got all, I'm taking a big deep dive into limestone and different mountain peaks. It's kind of interesting that me and Dan are doing this program. I got a lot of research I'm looking into limestone and mountain peaks, etc. But why would you take the risk, Dan, to drag me up to a mountaintop, and then almost perish yourself? I just want to know. I'm not putting it down, but I really do want to know. What do you think, Dan? It's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
how do you feel about it? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with 100%. It really is interesting.
Yeah.
If you want to pull this up, you'll at least get already Mount Tabor, Tabor.
I've been here before. Is it in Vermont?
No, it's where the mountain that Jesus transfiguration.
No, I'm sorry. Goodness, I thought he was going to go into somewhere in America, because there is a Mount Tabor in Vermont.
That's where they have a same
I know.
name.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange stuff when it comes to. Let me make sure I'm going to the right place. Sometimes when you're doing a little Google Earth, skimming through everything, you'd be surprised what America has. It's weird because there's a ton of Mount Hermon.
Yep.
Mount Hermon, literally mountains called on the East Coast, from all the way down from Rhode Island, that area all the way down into my neck of the woods. So I thought that was kind of strange myself. I'm just saying, a little bizarre.
While you're pulling that up, Matthew 17. This is like just like we did a show on this. This whole show on this one chapter here. But anyway, after 6 days, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John, his brother, and brings them up to a high mountain. Now again, they believe that this mountain was called Mount Tabor. That's believed to be the mountain of transfiguration, where Jesus, and they actually built a church up there or something, some kind of a temple. That's right there, some Mount of Transfiguration. Anyway, so, and was Jesus transfigured before them. In other words, he transfigure is like, you see how I am in the flesh, or instantly turn into a spirit. Like you're all light and everything else, not flesh and all that stuff. You instantly turn into a spirit. So he was transfigured before them, and his face did shine like the sun, and his raiment was white as light. So he went from, olive skin looking person with regular clothes on to all bright shining light. So this was up on this mountain. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah. Now, mind you, Moses and Elijah have been dead, or taken away, for thousands of years before this. So there we are on Mount, if this is the right mountain or not. But anyway, what is it, Mount? Yeah, just
let me know when you want me to deploy it, and I'll share it.
Yeah, well, this mountain here. So there they are on this mountain, this high mountain, and all of a sudden Jesus transforms into the spirit. And all of a sudden, Moses and Elijah appear, all in the spirit. And it's like, the four apostles that were with them, they were just baffled them. They're like, then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, is it good for us to be here? It's like, should we be here? Because, mind you, they're seeing this happening, and I couldn't even imagine the sight of this. Even though they were faithful followers of Jesus, they were scared crap. Like, what is going on? Because this is something you don't see every day, And if thou will, let us make here tabernacles for one of you, and for Moses and Elijah as well. And while he spoke, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. This is up on the mountain now. A bright cloud came over and overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud said, this is my beloved son, whom I well please. So if you could actually put yourself there for a minute, right? You're talking to Jesus, he's in the flesh and all that. And all of a sudden, he says, come on, let's go up on this mountain. And all of a sudden, he transforms into this being of light. And all of a sudden, two other beings of light show up, Moses and Elijah. There's this conversation going on. And all of a sudden, this giant bright cloud appears them, and his loud thunderous voice comes out and says, this is my son for whom I am well pleased. And then, the point of the story, this is going on in a mountain. So there's a spiritual significance with mountains for some reason, because it's high up. I believe that's mainly the point, and it's high up, and this is the designated places that God's appointed, or these spiritual gates are open, if you will, And that's why, if you actually think of this for a minute, right? Remember the Tower of Babel? Why would they build a tower going into heaven? Because they were building a gateway. They were building, when you go up to a certain high altitude or something, there has to be some kind of access to portals or whatever the case. And so they were building, their intent was to build a tower into heaven. That's what their goal was. Nimrod's goal is to build a tower to heaven and literally take it over into the kingdom of God. And so, what happened after that. But there's a spiritual significance with these high areas. And then when the disciples heard this, they fell on their face and they were afraid. They were sore afraid and very afraid. And Jesus came and touched them and said, arise, don't be afraid. Because again, this is something you don't see every day. Jesus, bam, he's always the bright spirit talking to two other spirits, Moses and Elijah. Now, mind you, Elijah was never died. Elijah was taken up by God. And which we believe he's one of the final two witnesses. But that's neither here nor there. And Jesus came and touched them and said, don't be afraid. Now, mind you, at this point in time, these four apostles, they've seen all kinds of stuff. Demons, everything else in the world. And they were definitely afraid when they were witnesses. So I couldn't even imagine the sight of this. And it took Jesus to go up to them and touch them and say, listen, don't be afraid, guys. And they lifted up their eyes, and they see no man save Jesus only. So they were so afraid that they literally oh my God, they probably covered up, and Jesus came up to him and told him, "Don't be afraid," and all of this stuff was gone. He was back in the flesh again. And so this is when Jesus, right? He says when they came off the mountain, Jesus told them, "Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man risen again from the dead." So he told them to don't tell anybody until after my resurrection. There's a reason for that. So this is like very spiritual significance. And again, this mountain here, Brian's got it up here. This mountain known as Mountain of Transfiguration. And that's crazy, man. And Mount Tabor, Tabor. That's what Brian's got up on the screen here. Let me get his screen up. And that's where it's located. So they believe that's which that a church it says? The Church of what?
Yeah, it says the Church of Transfiguration. That is correct, Dan.
Wow.
I mean, I don't even know if you can get a street view, but I bet you probably could. Hey, let's get in there. Let's go into the floor here on the street view. So here we go, Dan. That's what the church looks like. It's pretty. The architect work is pretty amazing on this. Just letting you know.
Wonder how old that church is. That's yeah. That thing's built solid.
Yep. Yeah, I can zoom in and out.
You know, it's amazing they can't build things like this anymore.
When you lose, let me just have some fun here. When you lose Tartarian technology, but it's just, let's just say the powers that be don't want us no more.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want us no more, Dan. There's my little kind of goofy talk there today. They don't want us no more, and they don't want us to have the energy, the electricity. They don't want us no more. So they don't want us to have that technology to prosper and have the ability to build the, just on an architect standpoint, to have the structure to withstand the, let's just say, the realm of time. They don't want us to have something that holds up for 1,000 years. Let's just take it for a well-known fact and visual disturbance world. When the roof blows off twice within like 1 month, and that happened to my home. When the roof blows off because of tornadoes and storms and all kinds of straight line winds, let's just say, that these type of buildings, just like the Church of the Transfiguration, it's not going to blow away. When the straight line winds come, like Dan said, that place is built like, it's solid, right? So it's kind of baffling to me that this technology in these places, and I'm not saying that people don't have to take care of this building. Okay. I know that they have to keep it up and clean it and all that good stuff, but I can assure you it looks probably very similar to when it was originally built. It still looks, and it's kind of interesting, Dan. You see that in all these ancient cathedrals and stuff. They all look very similar to, like, you do comparison pictures you see online, like, from the original time it was built. If it's like, 1800s or set, like if they had the imagery of it, it's so ironic that, like, they'll take a picture of the 1900s and it looks super clean, there's no, catastrophic event unless there's like fire or something that happens to them or something. But, and it's just kind of interesting how the structures and our homes that we live in now, they can't even survive 100 years. And I remember as a kid, there was family members that I known that had the family, their houses was built like back in the 1800s, and they still lived in them. And now you can't get a house built. Oh, it's guaranteed for a lifetime of 30 years before it collapses, and it just baffles me, man. But I know that's not really the topic of the program. We're getting off the topic. But as far as structures and the architect work, well designed. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Let's back up here and look at the actual mountain, and just look at everything, and just look at all the little trails going up and down it, Dan. I mean, look at the trails all around. There was a lookout. You could actually see this. It's called the Lookout of Mount Tabor.
Yeah.
and you could go to it and zoom right in on it. It was kind of neat. I went right to it a minute ago, and I was trying to. You can kind of go right here, and I think you can see. I think that's well. There's always bushes and stuff in the way, but I think you can see where the Mount of Transfiguration is. Like it's just hard to make it navigate there. Sometimes Google Earth is just really slow, but I think it's right here behind that tree there, Dan. It's pretty neat. I mean that is a good lookout if that's what that's. I'm assuming that's what that's for, and it's a really cool. I've never been. Anybody in the chat's ever been? Let us know if you've ever been. I think it'd be neat to actually visit. But what do you think, Dan? This is a very interesting place and somewhere to document for this program. But yeah,
Cool.
pretty cool stuff.
It is. And I want to get to skip a little ahead a little because like the time's coming.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah.
real quick, if you want to go to Mount Sinai, and we all know the stories of Mount Sinai and everything else, and where Moses received the Ten Commandments, where the burning bush was, I believe, where he spoke to God, and God wrote the Ten Commandments on the tablets and everything else, and a lot of amazing stuff happened there. So again, Mount Sinai, this high place where the supernatural occurrences happen. And why, people say, why couldn't God just give them the Ten Commandments down there? Why do you have to go up to a mountain? It took them days on end to get up to the top. And even when they got up to the top of the mountain, when he encountered the burning bush, God told him to take his shoes off because he's on holy ground. So there again, point out this is a very spiritual significance on top of these mountains, these places. And again, God designated these places, obviously, because here's the thing too, how do you preserve something? You have something where normal people don't go every day. So not everybody goes up on a mountain. It's a lot of work to get up to the top of a mountain. It really is. So not everybody goes up to the top of a mountain. So that's a place where you could go in solitude and in sacred, and that's where a lot of the Native Americans believe, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the ancient Japanese and Chinese and all that. They went to high places, the monks and all that, because it's a place of solitude, a place of. When I went on to Mount Washington in New Hampshire, there was maybe New Hampshire, I forgot, but I was on Mount Washington, and even though it's a tourist place and all that, but being on top of that mountain was awesome. You could just feel the crater. You look around and it's a whole new. And if you have never been to a top of a mountain, guys, I would highly suggest to go. It's I'm telling you, you get that spiritual feeling. You really do. You're closer to the Father, and it's amazing, really is. So it's a great experience. And Mount Washington, you don't have to hike it. They have a cog train that goes up to the top of the mountain and takes you back down again, or you could drive up there, whatever you want to do. But it's just amazing stuff. But Mount Sinai, again, Moses went to Mount Sinai, and he was directed by God to go there. And it took him days on end to get to the top to receive the Ten Commandments. And as Brian's got here illustrated here on Google Earth, and that's the actual Mount Sinai. Is that where they believe that he? And I think I remember seeing this before. They got the place marked where they believe that's where Moses received the Ten Commandments.
I believe so, Diana. And just for throwing this up here, making sure that everybody knows, it's called. I think you pronounce it Jabal Musa, Jabal Musa, but it's Mount Sinai. Okay, so it's look it up. That's what it referenced. That's what Google Earth says it. Yep. When you type in Mount Sinai in Egypt, it comes up Jabal Musa. So, yeah, but that is it. And
I think it's Muslims occupy the area, right?
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to get a good. Let's see. Obviously, like you said, Arabic, and that's. I'm trying to look what resides there today as far as the population, but yeah, interesting place, Dan. Interesting place. I'm trying to look and see if there's anything that you just said. There is some kind of structure right here, and you can see it. It looks very strange. Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what these are. It's real blurry and you can't make it out. I mean, there's nothing. Well, you can. There's a picture. Let's see. It's these little. I'm assuming these are the build. Yeah, there's some buildings here, Dan.
Oh yeah.
It's just some. Look at that view. Wow. Talking about high elevation.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I wish I could go there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah. I'm trying to get a different street view. But it did it there for a minute. You can't. It makes the imagery look really. It's really bad here. It's literally really blurry, and I can't see what I'm looking at. Let's go here.
And they used to call this Mountain of God too.
Yeah. Look at that, Dan.
Well.
Look how high, and this little hut here. Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
If anybody's ever been on the mountain, it is windy.
Yeah,
windy.
Look at the sun, Dan. Even with this Google Earth imagery. Look at the mountain peaks all from around here. But yeah, could you imagine the day that the commandments? Could you imagine that great day?
Wasn't there a giant cloud over the mountain too? And
yeah, it's crazy stuff, Dan. Crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I want to bring up real quick before we get to the Mountain of God, in the Great North, because we got the Q&A coming up in a half hour. So I wanted to bring this up real quick here. So remember when this is Matthew 4, chapter 4 here. So when Satan took Jesus, taken up to exceedingly high mountain. This is, in other words, an extremely high mountain. And I don't know what mountain that is. Do you know what mountain that is?
Say it one more time, Dan.
The mountain that Satan took Jesus up on.
Oh, that's a really good one. I'm trying to remember. I used to have it written down. I know. Man, I should know this too because I have it in some verses.
But yeah, Satan takes him up to an exceedingly high mountain and shows him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And people say, "Oh, how could you see all the kingdoms of the world?" Well, first of all, you remember you're dealing with spiritual beings. They're not limited to the sight we have. So that would answer that question right off the bat. And also, we believe in biblical cosmology. It's it's not a globe Earth, but regardless, even if it was a globe Earth, these are spiritual beings. Okay, they can see everywhere. They're not limited to our limitations. So, anyway, and he said to them, "All these things I'll give you if you fall down and worship me." Then said Jesus to him, "Get behind me, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord God and only him that I serve." And the devil left him, and behold, the angels came and ministered unto him. So this is all on the mountain. So why did he bring him up to a high mountain? We could say, well, I could give you all the kingdoms of the world, but there was a spiritual significance why he brought him up there. And again, Satan could have just appeared to him and said, "Hey, I could give you all the kingdoms of the world." But why did he bring him up there to show him all the kingdoms of the world? That's the question. You know what I mean? And then the angels appeared to them. So the spiritual application took place on this mountain. You know? Mount what?
Well, it's Quarantinia is what it's called. Yeah, it's Quarantinia, and it's Mountain of Temptation. I don't know why I've completely let that slip my mind. But it's not too far from, I think it was if I remember correctly, a road from Jerusalem to Jericho. So yeah, forgive me, everybody. Me and Dan had we had a roadblock.
Yeah.
But yeah, Quarantinia, it's the Mount of Temptation. I have it on the screen if you want me to share it, Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, folks. A little hiccup there. But yeah. Quarantinia. That sounds interesting. I never heard of Quarantinia. But yeah, here's the Mountain of Temptation. Yeah, it's let me see if I can get any kind of there's 3 spots here, but nothing, and then let's just zoom in. It won't take me to the indicator. This has to be it though. Wow. That image don't look right there, but hello. This has to be it, Dan.
Huh.
That's kind of eerie with that the way the imagery. That's I think that's how Google Earth imagery, hopefully, or maybe it's there's a certain word I can't use on here, but I think it's just where the two pictures are combining there. But yeah, this has to be it, Dan. It's interesting that they have these stairs that you can walk up to it. Yeah, let me go one more. Let me zoom out and take it to this other area. I think it was right here, if I'm not mistaken. I think I seen one right there. Yes. I'm trying to. Here we go, Dan. Here we go. This give you a lot more better perspective when you're looking.
Wow.
I mean, look at that. Look how awesome that is. And isn't this interesting? Just kind of throwing this out here.
Wow, that carving into the rock like that.
Yeah, I know. If I'm not mistaken, remember if anybody's ever seen me do any other programs and stuff in the past, I have admitted that I did have a video game problem. I used to be a big gamer years ago, big old video gamer. I mean, I used to play a obscene amount of hours, and there was a video game called Assassin's Creed, and it was, I think the original one was in Jerusalem, and I'm pretty sure that you have to jump off this mountain because it looks very familiar to me. And I just wanted to point that out because that's how messed up the subliminal messaging and what they, what seed they plant in your mind. So, but yeah, it's pretty bad that I don't have to go Google Earth, and I've already seen this with a rendering of a 3D imagery of CGI and all kinds of video game, graphic designs, so to speak. But there you go, Dan. Look at the overview of everything. Crazy stuff, isn't it? But yeah, that's Matthew 4, folks. I think that might be, no, forgive me. I think it's Matthew, was it Matthew 4-8 or Matthew 4 where Satan took him to the high place? Or is it Matthew 4-5? Or Luke 4-5. Forgive me.
Yeah, it's chapter 4. I think it's verse 8 or something, but.
Yeah. But yeah, there you go, Dan.
Well, show them all the kings. Now look at that, right? So obviously we can't see all the kings of the world from there, right? But again, these are spiritual beings you're talking about. So yeah, they don't have limitations like we do. So I want to point that out because a lot of people, they dismiss these things quickly because they think they do the carnal mind. They can't wrap their head around supernatural stuff. And another mountain I want to jump to real quick here. I want to go to Zechariah, chapter 6. And I turned and lifted my eyes up and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots out of between the 2 mountains, and the mountains were mountains of brass. So a couple of things I want to bring up real quick because we want to get to the prime subject in which we believe the North Pole, a lot of significance at the North Pole, and it's being hidden by the elite for a reason. So that's a verse I wanted to bring up, talk about these mountains of brass and iron, all kinds of things, right? There's many verses on this, and to save face here. So, hang on a second, let me get to the... So I want to go to also Isaiah 14:12 when it talks about Lucifer, right? Now, listen to this. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How you are cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations. For you had said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also on the mountain of congregation and in the sides of the north. Now, I'll point something out here, right? And let me just read it first. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And yet those shall be brought down to hell and to be the sides of the pit, whatever. So anyway, if you want to point out something out here, right? He goes, I will sit also upon the mount, which is a mountain of congregation. To gives you the location, in the sides of the north. Now, in the sides of the north, there's a lot of significance of where the sides of the north is. Right? So I'm going to go to this guy, Gervadus Mercado, right? He wrote a letter, he was a Flemish cartographer, which they, make maps and all that. And then he was an explorer. So he wrote a letter to his friend, the English scientist, occultist, and royal advisor, John Dee. Now, if you all remember John Dee, he was part of the Knights Templar at the time and all that stuff, a deep occultist, very evil person. So, and that's where the 007 comes from, by the way, the Secret Service 007 and all that. John Dee was the first 007. He worked for the Queen. He was a spy and everything else. But anyway, this guy wrote a letter to him, right? And that's who John D is here. Image of him. Guy was very maniacal. Smart man, don't get me wrong, but very evil. Anyway, he explored the north, this Gerardo Mercado. And he wrote this letter. He said, in the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool. So he wrote, there's the map above right there, right? Now, if you just read what Isaiah said, right? The 4 sides of the north, in the 4 sides of the north. Now, we'll go back there real quick. And just keep that in your mind, right? It says, I will also sit on the mount of congregation in the sides of the north. In other words, in between. Now, it's got to play a role. Now, this is an explorer, right? That went there. He said, in the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool, in which there is empty these 4 indwelling seas, which divide the north, and the waters rush around and descend into earth, just as if one pouring water into a filtered funnel. So in the 4 degrees wide on every side of the pole, that is to say 8 degrees altogether, except that right under the pole there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea, right in the middle of all this. Its circumference is almost 33 French miles, and it's all magnetic stone. So now if you whip out your compass, guys, and the compass points where? North, right? That's where all this comes from. So if you look at the map right there, this is the map that he drew, and many maps like this. You're going to see 4 sides of the north, like Isaiah said, right? In the mist, in the middle, and in the 4 sides of the north. What's that right there? There's a mountain there. It's all metal. Now, we all understand, like, there's north and true north. You know what I mean, if you know anything about compasses, because of the deviation and all that stuff. But regardless, this magnetic mountain, and this an explorer said the whole mountain was magnetic back then. So, you know what I mean? And again, that's how we have a compass. And what I believe is when you look at a compass, that's the way to the Father. And we're going to get into the stuff here, deep into the stuff here. So Mercado actually described the rock's circumference as 33 French miles. And that's huge. Now, today's world, that's impossible because it'll be tall into space. Well, yeah, that's exactly. It's located at the magnetic North Pole or the North Pole itself. So there's a map there. And you're going to see some old maps we'll just show you in a minute here, matching us. Now, if you look on Google Earth, there's nothing there. They blocked it out. They really did. If you want to put that up real quick, the Google Earth of the North Pole, you're going to see the big difference, guys. And they literally blocked it out. They really did. You can see that there's something there, but it's blocked out. You know, and then they do a good job of hiding this stuff. Crazy stuff, man.
I'm going to try to pull it up.
And why Brian's doing that, right? So I want to jump into, this is Hinduism. This is their belief of the cosmology, right? Which kind of similar to biblical beliefs. Now, one more time, I'm going to say, every ancient culture in the world, ancient religions, all agree with the Bible, the cosmology, the earth. It's not a globe spinning through space, no. They all believe that the earth was created and everything was created around it. See the firmament, the sky? Then there's the ocean under the earth and above the firmament. That's exactly how it's spelled out in the book of Genesis, right? So in the center of the earth, they believe the North Pole is the center of the earth. And it's true. So they have this mountain called Mount Meru. Now there's another Mount Meru in Africa. We're not talking about that one. But this Mount Meru, that magnetic rock in the middle, that's where right about over there is where all compasses point to. Now, it's kind of crazy, right? And I got a video here I'll show real quick. I got permission for Google out there. I got permission. I'm sorry, YouTube. I do have permission to use some of this video. I asked the guy for permission to do this. And like right there, he goes, sure, use anything you like, my friend. So this is the video here. Let me get to it. Second. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but
all your guys react.
He's just showing the Hindu beliefs of this mountain, right? So, And he points out, too, the company BlackRock is named after this, and it's a lot of significance. And if you know anything about BlackRock, we're going to do a show on them someday. One of the most evil institutions in the world. They own so much property and everything else, very evil people. But yeah, let me play this here. Mount Meru in the center of the physical, metaphysical universe.
Mount Meru is the center, and to many faiths, it is a sacred 5-peaked mountain of Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist cosmology. So it's intriguing. So there's a lot of people who think differently on what it actually is. So it's of science. You know, science adds to 11 in gematria, but that's just a coincidence. You know that number 11, that won't go away. Anyway, they say the universe doesn't have a centre. Since the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago, they say basically the universe is...
Just point out, we don't believe in the Big Bang or anything. We're just using this for educational.
Expanding. Now, do you see what I see? Now, this just made me laugh for something I found, and it will blow your mind. And obviously, that's zoomed in, and if I just put, move out a bit more, you can just see the full map. So it's an intriguing map. So when you start to think out the box, and you'll see other people in the community showing you images of this, of the North Pole and how it was blackened out, people automatically start to think, is it hollow earth, what they're trying to hide in the north. Now this is intriguing, is it? Because you can believe in anything. I don't hold any grudges like some people do if you say a map or you support a shape of the earth. I don't. I'm all about learning and learning off each other. But that black hole in the north, well, Greenland's at the side, and it's just a pure coincidence that the god of doorways has an island in Greenland called Janis Island. That's just a coincidence, guys. No one else has talked about this. Oh, sorry, a couple of channels have who borrowed it off me but didn't tell people where they got it from. But hey, what can we do? And for anyone else thinking, oh, well, what about Antarctica? Many years ago, there's another island, don't we? And the white is the mixture of those three colours. So there is something to this. Just thinking out the box and a little bit different. That's all we ask. And here's that image that I've already shown in the intro. But it's intriguing. So in these fairs,
pointing out what the Hindus believe, the sides of the mountain, the colors and all that. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but the fact that they do acknowledge that the North Pole is the center of the world and that there's a mountain there, a very exceedingly high mountain there. So I just wanted to point that out. That's the point of this. And I'm not saying he's believes in the Hindu version of that, but he's just pointing this out himself. Credit to Black Sheep Researcher on YouTube. Thank you so much for allowing me to use some of your video here. And this is where I got the slides.
Or at the North Pole itself. Hence why people believe to be at the centre of this realm. And then obviously in them faiths, it's the centre of the universe as well. Now, the idea came from a lost work titled Inventio Fortunata, and the island featured on maps from the 16th and 17th century. So again, influential, including those of Gerardus or Gerudus Mercator, who you've seen on the screen. So Mercator described the island in a 1577 letter to John Dee. Again, the Great Vowel Shift period. And I'll just put a little image of the letter itself. You can go and research it. And here's the letter now. Well, a part of it, obviously. It's like, how many pages. So it talks about, in the midst of the four countries is a whirlpool into which these four indrawing seas which divide the north, and the water rushes around and descends into the earth just as if one were pouring it through a filter funnel. It is 4 degrees wide on every side of the pole, that is to say 8 degrees altogether, except that right under the pole there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea. Its circumference is almost 33 French miles, and it is all of a magnetic stone. And obviously this was talked about Jacobus Canoinen, and this was years ago. So you can just see the significance of it. They're talking about a magnetic island at the centre of this realm, and that is why all compasses point north, but it's always inward. Tell me you're not intrigued. and you're not especially intrigued.
And if you want to, for the sake of time, because we gotta like really push things here. Again, credit to Black Sheep Researcher, and if you want to watch this video, we're gonna post it in the chat room here. But he just shows you the Hindu beliefs and all that stuff, which again, we don't support Hinduism or anything like that. But what we pointed out is their cosmology view, the ancient version of the cosmology view, is exactly what the Bible teaches and all that. So, and again, if you want to go back to the slides here, it's really amazing, it really is, that this certain mountain where Lucifer, right, talks about, I will sit upon the mountain of congregation in the sides of the north. So this mountain of congregation is this the one in the North Pole that's being hidden? Is this like the throne of God, where the throne of God starts? And if you look at a magnet, right? A compass. That there's no magnetic south or nothing that goes right to the North Pole. And, if you research what the world teaches, they believe, the globe Earth, and they believe there's this, you have your magnet, you have the North Pole and the South Pole of the magnet, and it creates a magnetic field and all that. They believe it goes through the center of the Earth. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? On a flat plane, there, they would have that mountain on the top there that would give off this magnetic field. And that's why all compasses, no matter where you are in the world, it all points to the north. And there's deviations, if you're using a compass heading, if you're flying, because I'm a pilot, and or if you're boating, right? We understand there's true north and magnetic north. There's deviations you gotta work through. I forgot what that's called, inclination, I think it is. But so there's calculations got to do whatever the case. But regardless, they all point to the north. The compasses. So there's a magnetic disturbance going on in the North Pole. And if you kind of understand, again, take the globe view out of your mind for a minute, right? And you got the whole world, right? All the continents around it. And, when you look at the maps, it's just like, it's uncanny. Yeah. And you got that pulled up, Brian?
Yeah, I can pull it up, Dan.
All right. Yeah, and it's crazy, man. And why Brian's doing that, guys, if you ever heard of the aurora lights, right? They come from the north, right? The northern lights are colors of God's throne. They really are. But the aurora lights, and it's mysteriously this year, right? They've been spotted in places that you never in history have ever seen them before. What is going on? God's starting to show his presence. And if you look at all the wrath he's doing to different countries that mock God day after, so there's destruction there. You know what I mean? So God's showing himself right now. And people seeing, in the United States of America, people seeing the aurora lights. So anyway, in Revelation 4:3, we'll get to the map in a second with Brian here. Revelation 4:3 says he sat, the throne, God's throne, right? And he sat, that was looked upon like jasper and sardine stone, and there was a rainbow around about the throne in the sight of the like an emerald, right? You talk about the radiance of God's throne. And remember, God says the earth is his what? Footstool, right? So these are the stones he's talking about, and they're exactly the colors for the northern lights. So when you look to the north, everything's pointing to the north. Is that mountain, literally, is that mountain in the North Pole, is that mountain going up to the throne of God? And I 100% believe this. I really do, because the Bible points out the mountain of congregation, right, in the sides of the north. And right where Brian's got here, you look at the Google Earth version, right? There's nothing there. You don't see no mountain. You barely see any land there.
Yeah, it's interesting when you zoom in. It almost looks like it's, my uncle calls it paper mache.
Yeah.
It starts to unwindle. You can see the lines. And it's just all stretched. It looks like you're going through a vortex. The more you zoom in, the lights become more dominant, more apparent. It's pretty bizarre, Dan. It just shows you that it's all just, a lot of, well, I'll take that back. Not everything on it is fake, but majority of it, is covered up or manipulated in some shape or form. There is manipulation going on. There's really nothing else you can say. I'm zoomed in pretty tight there. You see how much I had to zoom in and zoom out. And it just baffles the mind, Dan.
Oh, it does. And look at it. It's just like, where is it? You know what I mean? Keep that up for 1 second right there. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Zoom out a little bit. Let me,
Yep.
Now look, lose them out a little more. Right there, right? Now look at that, guys. Take a look at that. You can see, look to the left of that. That's just wobbled and all that. You could tell there's stuff missing. You could tell that is not exactly what that looks like, right? Now look at this map here. And you got to find tons. I mean, all the ancient explorers and all that. And, you know, even up to the 16th, 17th century and all that. This is how they map the stuff. Look at the big difference between the two. But they want to believe us to believe it's just all water and ice up there, right? Yeah. And that mountain, that middle mountain of magnetic, that would explain how we got a magnetic pole. And you said you got the Ramsay's, Dave Ramsay's map and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can pop it up in like 2 seconds. Yeah. So you can explain it if you want to, and I'll move the pieces around, wrap it, so I can wrap it around Google Earth. I have the Ramsay's map that Dan's getting ready to show. I can actually, about a year ago or so, I was able to deploy it on Google Earth so I can mask it around the Earth of Google Earth and show you the map of old. You know, it's kind of neat. And see, Dan, you know, did you see what I just did? I clicked it, right? And go back and look. Oops. Look what it did. Look where we are, Dan.
1 second.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Wow.
I didn't know you was right. I didn't know when you was ready. You see this, folks? I didn't move. I didn't move from the location where Dan told me to.
1, 2, 3, 4 lands.
Now watch this, Dan.
4 sides of the north right there, right in the middle.
Yeah, watch this. I'll take it back off. Right?
Yep.
And then I put it back on.
Wow.
And then there you go. There's your lovely compass.
So all that land and mountains just missing off of Google Earth.
Yeah, so this is where's all this land at, folks? And like Dan's bringing up, where's all that at? It's interesting too, Dan, because I've looked at this Ramsay's map and I was I haven't looked over the whole thing. It's so massive, but I do know that I've seen 6 to 7 different languages on the part that I did reference. I found literally 6 to 7 different languages. And each one, you know, when you start reading these little, just little letters, you know, and stuff, all the little location tabs and the little square boxes, they all have, it's really interesting. I mean, if we had time to write all this stuff down and put it in a translator, we could we'll have to do a show or something on this, or I will on my channel, but I'm going to look at what these are depictions of this, you know, there's Latin, there's Italian, I think there might be, there's French. I remember there's Latin, obviously, but there's quite a few on here, different languages on this map. But hey, like Dan's pointing out, North Pole, look at the 4 lines, the 4 points, and all this mountain range. I mean, just like that picture, that slide that Dan showed, this one that resembles it it's very intriguing. You're right, Dan. I mean, it's almost on point with that slide that you shown a minute ago. So there you go.
And it's almost identical.
Yeah.
Actually, it is because if you twist it around a little bit, it will be
That's a 1587, isn't it? 1587 map, I think, or 1567 map. So yeah. Little crazy, folks.
Yeah.
Here we are on Spiritual Warfare Friday. We're just
thank you, Brian. So guys, now real quick here again, I'm not promoting Hindus or anything like that, but yeah, the Hindus, Tibetans, Himalayans, all these like ancient cultures and religions all have the same view of this. All the explorers map the same thing. The Bible talks about, again, the 4 mountains in the north, which means in between them, the mountain of congregation. So could this be the mountain of God that goes to his throne? And that's where the auroral lights come from. That's where magnetic, and you put this together, guys. Put it all together right now. You know, the compass points there. or right about there in the area, because the magnetic field, it's shifty. That's why sometimes, like, every year it changes a little bit. You have to adjust your compasses, your magnetic north and true north thing. So the magnet, long story short, your compass points there, right? That's where the magnetic field of the Earth comes from, right? And all the explorers said there's a metal mountain there that's magnetic that goes 33 miles up. I think it's 8 miles high, whatever. I forgot what French miles are, but it's high. All right, and why is this being covered up for? And that's where the royal lights come from. And guess what? God said what? The earth is his footstool. It's like a wax seal. He sits upon it, right? So his throne is directly above the North Pole. Center of the earth is the North Pole. Right above it, that's where God's throne is. Above the firmament, above the waters, that's where God's throne is, and the mountain that goes there. You know what I mean? So why do you think the elite would be covering this up for? Because I'll tell you why. Because they want to hide the creator. That's why. They don't want to tell you this stuff. They don't want to show you this stuff. And I truly believe that sometimes planes can't go there because of the magnetic field. I don't know. About there is a massive cover-up, and same thing with Antarctica. It's crazy. Antarctica is 10 times bigger than shown on the map. That's a whole new show altogether. But yeah, if you want to do the research, guys, go for it. And there's again David Ramsay's map collection. So if you look that up, right? He's got a list of maps, all these maps from different eras, and all the ancient maps, all of them will show you, look, details of these certain lands, what's inhabited in these lands. Now, mind you, half these lands you don't see on the globe no more, or the map. They're gone. So are these people just making this stuff up? And these are dozens of explorers from different countries and eras, all saying the same stuff. Perfect descriptions of what's on the land. It's just like, it's amazing. Showing that the lands are 10 times bigger than what we perceive them to be. There's more land, more continents than 7. It's uncanny. It really is. And all the maps show that the center of the earth is the North Pole. Shows that the North Pole has 4 islands with a mountain in the middle of it. So if you want to dismiss all that, thousands of years of stuff, biblical stuff, all that stuff, right? Dismiss it all and, I'm going to just believe what science has to say today, NASA and all them, because they know better. No, they don't. They're purposely hiding the creator from you, plain and simple. So we're going to move on to the questions and answer show. We put the link in the chat room here. So we're going to go over to Rumble. So the reason why we're going to Rumble for, if you missed the beginning of the show, because people call in, they ask questions, or they start talking about stuff that's forbidden on YouTube. We don't want to deal with the strikes no more, so we want to try to save the channel, and I have to respect YouTube's policy. So that being said, the link's in the chat room. It's also in the description. So if you guys want to head over to Rumble, if you don't got a Rumble channel, guys, it only takes a minute, literally, to create an account. It really does. It takes real quick to create a Rumble account. Rumble's just like YouTube. If you don't know what it is, it's that competition now. And I think you can just watch it too if you don't have to sign up either. You just could just watch it. But we're going to open the phone lines up when we get there, and you guys can call into the show and all that stuff. So we'll give you guys a few minutes. Go get quick drink and all that, and we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes here. And good stuff, Brian. And so you want to say a quick prayer on the way out?
Yeah, sure. And one thing too, I want to thank everybody for donating to the program tonight, and everybody being that's in attendance tonight. Thank you all for attending with us on the Spiritual Warfare Friday. But I will end us out in a prayer. And thanks for one other thing too, Harold McCain. Thank you for moderating the chat. And even if there's anybody, Valerie or Uncle Obvious, and Jason also. So let's say a real quick prayer, and then we'll jump on the Rumble Q&A. Now, dear Father in heaven, thank you for this evening. Thank you for this Spiritual Warfare Friday program. Thank you for Brother Dan. I pray, Lord Father, that we have a good weekend, a good Sabbath coming up, and a good next week coming up. Lord Father, bless us, Lord. Be with our country. Be with all the weirdness that's going on. I pray, Lord, that nothing bad will happen. I pray you'll supernaturally protect us, Lord, and just keep us grounded in the Word and on the right path in that narrow way, Lord, to Christ. And thank you, Father, for your Son. Thank you for Jesus, Lord. And I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. So, guys, we'll see you over at Rumble in about a few minutes from now. So head over there, guys. I put the link in the chat room. I'll put one more time here. So in the chat room, it's also in the description of the video. So, yeah, there's the link here. Just click on the link, and we'll be there in a few minutes. So for me and Brian and Jason here, love you all. God bless. We'll see you in a few.